We often believe we are keepers of a static past, a collection of moments locked away in a secure vault. But the mind is less a vault and more an active workspace, a place where the edges of what happened are constantly being filed down. We do not remember events so much as we remember the last time we thought about them. Each recollection is a subtle revision, a quiet adjustment made to ensure the past remains compatible with the person we have become. This process happens without our permission or awareness, a silent internal housekeeping that tidies up the contradictions of our history until the original experience is buried under layers of convenient narrative. The edits are rarely dramatic. They occur in the small spaces between the facts. We soften a harsh word we once spoke, or sharpen a slight we once received, unaware that we are shifting the foundation of our own identity. Over years, these minor recalibrations accumulate, turning a jagged reality into a smooth, digestible story. We carry these revised versions with us, trusting them completely, never suspecting that the clarity we feel is actually the result of an ongoing erasure. The truth of what occurred becomes a secondary concern to the necessity of a coherent self-image, leaving us living within a fiction we have spent a lifetime perfecting. There is a specific kind of tension in the gaps where the original memory used to be. It is an internal friction that we cannot quite name, a sense that the story we tell ourselves is missing a vital, uncomfortable frequency. Even as we rewrite our history to favor our current perspective, the ghost of the unedited event remains. It exerts a gravitational pull on our moods and reactions, influencing us from a place we can no longer access. We are haunted by versions of ourselves that we have systematically deleted, governed by the very impulses we have worked so hard to explain away through our internal revisions. When we look back, we see a sequence of logic, a path that seems to lead inevitably to the present moment. This sense of inevitability is the greatest deception of the edited mind. We have retroactively assigned meaning to accidents and removed the chaos that once defined our days. The uncertainty we felt at the time is replaced by a false sense of purpose, as if we were always moving toward this specific version of ourselves. We have scrubbed away the doubt and the aimless wandering, leaving behind a curated history that feels solid only because we have removed everything that might make it crumble. This internal editing functions as a survival mechanism, protecting us from the weight of our own inconsistencies. To remember everything exactly as it was would be to live in a state of constant psychic fragmentation. We could not bear the full reality of our contradictions, so we subconsciously choose which parts of our history to emphasize and which to let fade into a dull, unrecognizable blur. The mind prioritizes stability over accuracy, creating a seamless timeline that allows us to function. We trade the messy, inconvenient truth for a streamlined identity, unaware of the cost of this perpetual psychological refinement. The original truth does not disappear simply because it has been overwritten. It lingers in the periphery of our consciousness, manifesting as a sudden, inexplicable feeling of displacement. We might find ourselves reacting with intensity to a situation that seems mundane, driven by a memory we have long since revised into something harmless. The edited narrative provides a surface-level calm, but beneath it, the raw data of our lives continues to vibrate. We are navigating the world using a map that we have altered to hide the obstacles, yet we continue to stumble over the things we claim are no longer there. We are the sole authors of these revisions, which makes them impossible to fact-check. No one else has access to the internal theater where our memories are staged and restaged. Even those who were there with us have performed their own edits, creating a shared history that is actually a collection of diverging fictions. We agree on the broad outlines, but inhabit entirely different versions of the emotional core. This leaves us fundamentally alone in our pasts, trapped within a subjective timeline that grows more isolated with every passing year as the distance between the event and the edit increases. There is no final version of a memory. The editing process continues until the moment of our death, with each new experience providing a fresh lens through which to distort the old ones. A failure today can turn a triumph from 10 years ago into a warning sign we supposedly missed. A new love can retroactively flatten the intensity of a previous one until it fits neatly into the category of a mistake. We are constantly moving the goalposts of our own history, ensuring that the past always serves the needs of the present, regardless of how much of the original truth must be sacrificed. The sense of self is built upon this shifting sand, yet we treat it as if it were granite. We define ourselves by traits and experiences that may be nothing more than the products of a decade of mental smoothing. If we could see the unedited footage of our lives, we might find ourselves looking at a stranger, someone whose motivations and fears are unrecognizable to our current filtered perspective. The gap between who we were and who we remember being is a silent canyon, filled with the discarded fragments of a reality that no longer fits the narrative we require to keep going. We often talk about forgetting as a passive loss, a simple failure of storage. But this kind of editing is active and selective. It is a quiet, rhythmic pulse of the ego, working to maintain the illusion of a continuous, improving character. We prune away the branches of our history that grew in directions we no longer approve of. This creates a neat, linear garden out of what was once a wild and tangled thicket. The beauty of the resulting story is a testament to our skill as editors, but the stillness of the garden is artificial, sustained only by our refusal to look at what was cut away. Identity is maintained through this constant exclusion. By deciding what does not belong in our history, we solidify the boundaries of who we think we are. However, the excluded parts do not cease to exist. They merely cease to be acknowledged. They form a shadow history, a parallel life consisting of all the things we have forgotten on purpose. This shadow history follows us, exerting a quiet pressure on the back of our necks, a reminder that our carefully constructed self is missing its most honest components. We are defined as much by what we have erased as by what we have kept. The more we repeat our edited stories to others, the more real they become to us. Speech acts as a sealant, locking the revisions into place. Every time we recount a formative experience, we strengthen the neural pathways of the edited version and allow the original traces to atrophy further. We become performers of our own lives, reading from a script that we have revised so many times we have forgotten there was ever an improvised original. The audience believes us, and their belief reinforces our own, until the fiction is the only reality that remains for anyone involved. There is a profound loneliness in realizing that our most cherished memories are likely fabrications of our own making. The moments that define us, the ones we return to for comfort or strength, have been polished by the mind until they shine with a light they never possessed in the moment. We are leaning on ghosts of our own creation. This realization does not lead to a recovery of the truth, but to a deeper understanding of our own instability. We are built upon a foundation of ghosts, held together by the thin thread of a story that we are making up as we go along. Time does not just fade memories, it transforms them into tools. We use the past to justify the present, selecting only the evidence that supports our current choices. If we are unhappy, we find the roots of that unhappiness in a redesigned childhood. If we are successful, we invent a narrative of early struggle that makes our current status feel earned. The past is a flexible resource, endlessly malleable, and always available for a rewrite. We are never looking back at what happened. We are always looking back at what we need to have happened to survive today. The influence of the original unedited event is most visible in our recurring patterns, the mistakes we repeat despite our narrative of growth. We tell ourselves we have learned, that we have changed, yet the unaddressed weight of the actual past continues to pull us into the same orbits. These repetitions are the cracks in our edited history, moments where the repressed reality breaks through the surface of the story. They suggest that while we can change the script, we cannot change the momentum of the events that actually occurred. We are trapped in a loop between the story and the truth. In the quietest moments, the narrative slips. When we are exhausted or overwhelmed, the energy required to maintain the edited version of our history wavers. In these brief intervals, we might glimpse a flash of the original experience, a raw, unfiltered sensation that does not fit the story. It is a moment of profound vertigo, a realization that we have been living in a curated reality. The feeling quickly passes as the mind rushes to repair the breach, smoothing over the inconsistency before we can fully grasp what it means. We return to the comfort of the edit, shaken but compliant. This process of silent revision ensures that we can never truly know ourselves. We are always one step behind the editing software of the mind, observing a processed version of our internal life. To seek the original truth of our history is to go on a journey toward a destination that has been systematically dismantled. There is no master file to recover, no backup of the unedited soul. We are the sum of our deletions, a collection of gaps and revisions that somehow manages to walk and talk and believe in its own permanence. We carry our edited pasts like heavy luggage, unaware that half the weight is composed of things we have invented to balance the load. The burden of who we claim to be is often more taxing than the reality of who we were. We spend immense psychological energy guarding these stories, defending them against any external evidence that might contradict our internal narrative. The fear of being found out, not by others, but by the reality of our own history, keeps us in a state of constant, low-level vigilance. We are protecting a house of cards that we have mistaken for a fortress. Ultimately, we are spectators to our own disappearance. As we replace the raw data of our lives with processed stories, the person who actually lived those moments is slowly erased. We become the narrators of a life we only partially experienced, curators of a museum where the exhibits are constantly being replaced by more flattering replicas. The original version of our history is lost in the static of time, leaving us with nothing but a series of beautifully crafted lies that we use to navigate the dark. We are the authors of an ending that was written before we understood the beginning. The tension never resolves because the editing never stops. There is no point of clarity where the truth and the story finally align. We simply continue to drift further from the source, refining our history until it is entirely unrecognizable from the events that sparked it. We live in the space between the happening and the remembering, a silent, unresolved state of being where the only thing we can be certain of is the inaccuracy of our own convictions. The silence that follows the story is not one of peace, but of the final, quiet erasure of everything we once were.